I never imagined a bubbling pot of marinara would be the backdrop for one of the most complex moments of my life. But life rarely offers warnings. It shifts beneath your feet when you're not paying attention. The kitchen hummed with the familiar rhythms of evening. Onions sizzled in a shallow pool of olive oil, their fragrance mingling with the sharp punch of garlic and the earthy whisper of rosemary. Rachel moved through the space with quiet command, like a maestro guiding each sound into harmony. She was precise, absorbed, unaware that everything was about to shift. At 38, Rachel had rebuilt her life from the rubble. A gutting divorce 3 years earlier had left her emptied out, unsure where she ended, and her roles as mother, stepmother, and caretaker began. She found structure in rituals, tending the garden, changing the furniture when the silence echoed too loudly, and cooking. Always cooking. This kitchen, once shared with the man who betrayed her, had transformed into her refuge. The house was unusually still that evening. Outside, the October breeze scraped leaves along the pavement. Inside, only the gentle clinks of utensils and the soft gurgle of tomato sauce filled the air. Rachel stirred without tasting, her hand moving out of habit, her mind somewhere far from the stove. The groan of a floorboard down the hall broke her trance. "Hey!" came a voice she knew well. She turned, and there he was, Josh, leaning against the doorway. He wasn't the lanky, uncertain teen she remembered from the early days of her marriage. At 25, he carried himself with quiet strength, tall, composed, a bit mysterious. His dark hair curled faintly at the ends, and his eyes, gray and stormy, gave away little. He wore a faded gray hoodie, sleeves casually pushed to his elbows, and the faint, clean scent of cedarwood clung to him. "You always start cooking when something's bothering you," he said lightly, but his voice held something gentler beneath the words. Rachel smiled, trying to dodge the implication. "Do I? Maybe I just really like garlic." He stepped into the kitchen, leaned against the counter like he belonged, and he kind of did. Since his father left, Josh had stayed in town for work, stopping by often, fixing things, mowing the yard, keeping her company. Their bond had taken root in that in-between space. He cared. He showed up. It was simple, unsaid, understood. But something tonight was different. The air held tension, like something waiting to be released. Josh grabbed a fork and scooped up a strand of pasta. "You miss it, don't you?" he asked, still not looking at her. Rachel paused, spoon held mid-stir. "Miss what?" "Being with someone. Being seen. Wanted." His words dropped into the air like weight. Heavy and irreversible. Her breath caught. The ground beneath her felt suddenly unstable. Still she stayed calm, measured. "I think everyone misses being wanted," she said gently. Josh turned to her fully now. No smirk. No teasing. Just open, steady honesty. "I see you, Rachel. I see how much you hold together. How much you give to everyone else. And I see how alone you are when no one's watching." Her chest tightened. How much had he seen? Had she really been so transparent? The guarded moments, the avoidance of casual touches in public, the nights she wrapped herself in blankets pretending to be fine. She thought those things were hidden. "You're being dramatic," she said quickly, laughing too fast to be real. Josh stepped closer. "I'm not a kid anymore. And you're not just someone who used to cook me dinner." His voice was calm, firm. "We've been circling each other for a long time now, haven't we?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Josh, we can't talk like this. You're my stepson. I helped raise you." "I know," he said quietly. "That's why I waited. I didn't want it to come from gratitude or loneliness. But last week when you leaned your head on my shoulder, it meant something to me. I think it meant something to you too." Rachel looked away, her face flushing. That night had haunted her in the quiet hours. The way their laughter had dissolved into silence. How naturally her head had rested on his shoulder. How right it had felt. Safe but also charged with something unspoken. "I don't know what I'm doing," she finally confessed. "Neither do I," Josh replied. "But maybe that's okay." The oven beeped, jolting them both. She turned the timer off but stayed rooted in place. The kitchen, once her sanctuary, now felt too intimate. "I shouldn't have said anything," he said after a pause. "I just couldn't keep pretending." Rachel turned to face him. Her hazel eyes searched his face. He wasn't playing games. He wasn't posturing. Just standing there with his heart uncovered. "Are you angry?" he asked. "I should be," she murmured. "But I'm not." She brushed past him, her heart pounding, needing air. But Josh followed quietly. He didn't crowd her. In the living room, golden lamplight cast soft shadows. Rachel sat on the edge of the couch, fingers laced in her lap. "You were always kind to me," Josh said, sitting beside her. "Even when Dad wasn't. You made me feel seen. Somewhere along the line, I started seeing you differently. Not as someone responsible for me. As someone I care about." Tears pressed against her eyes. She had poured years into roles, wife, stepmom, homemaker, never realizing how deeply she'd forgotten what it meant to feel wanted just for who she was. She reached out, her fingers brushing his. It wasn't an answer, just an admission. "I don't know what this is," she whispered. "But it's real," he said. "Whatever it becomes." He leaned toward her slowly, giving her every opportunity to say no. When their lips met, it was tentative. Not urgent, not reckless. Just quiet, like the first breath after being underwater too long. When they pulled away, silence hung between them. "Do you regret it?" he asked. Rachel shook her head. "No. I regret pretending I didn't feel it sooner." They didn't speak of love. Or the future. They just sat in the stillness, tangled in the impossible beauty of what was. The next morning, sunlight stretched across the floor in golden slats. Rachel stood in the doorway, watching Josh pour coffee. He looked up. His expression was tender, a little uncertain. "Morning." "Morning," she replied, her voice softer than usual. They sat across from each other, warm mugs in hand. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know yet," she answered honestly. "But I'm not afraid. Not like I thought I'd be." Josh nodded. "I'm not here to pressure you. I just want you to know I'm here. For whatever this is. No expectations." Days passed, then weeks. They never put a name to what had happened. But the quiet between them changed. Less strained, more peaceful. Their movements grew slower, more thoughtful. A gentle brush of hands. A lingering glance at the table. A silent walk through the garden. Rachel learned, gradually, that healing doesn't always arrive the way you expect. Sometimes it wears a familiar face. Sometimes it sees you fully for the first time. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun sink into the horizon, Josh reached for her hand. "Whatever this becomes," he said, "I'm not here for a moment. I'm here for all of it." Rachel rested her head on his shoulder, the fading light casting them in a warm glow. She knew there would be questions, maybe even scorn. But for the first time in years, she felt something she thought had vanished forever. She felt seen.